listener production.
Hey, Bension Siebert here with you. Happy last day of 2024 and welcome to another of the Briefing's Best of Summer Series episodes, where we're bringing back some of your favourite deep dives from the year. Next year's federal election is expected to be the first in Australia's history where there'll be more millennials and Gen Z than boomers at the ballot box. And it's starting to look like social media and influencers will be more important than ever in the outcome.
We're not going to know if that meme came from a little think tank that the Liberal or Labor Party have funded to make me swayed in that way. My dad or sister or brother, they might see it in their echo chamber, but I might not. So I think we're going to see a splintering of messaging to target people specifically.
We'll be revisiting my chat with political content creator Konrad Benjamin from Punters Politics in the second half of this episode. First though, here are the headlines from the Listener Newsroom on Tuesday, the 31st of December.
Hi there, it's Matt Layton with you. It's nearly time to farewell 2024 and Aussies are gearing up for a night of fireworks, festivities and fun. Sydney's fireworks are set to wow more than 1 million revellers with dazzling displays, while Melbourne promises more lasers than a Star Wars film. Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth will light up too, with everything from dragon-shaped fireworks to food festivals. While Aussies get ready to party this New Year's Eve, safety's in the spotlight. Public celebrations, fireworks and packed roads mean it's time to plan ahead.
Making sure, obviously, that you're fit to drive, that if you're planning to go out somewhere, make sure you've got a plan of how you're going to get home or how you might come up with the plan B, as they say.
The Australian Road Safety Foundation's Russell White there. Sydney's southwest is buzzing with a major police operation. Varraville's the hotspot with heavily armed officers on the scene. Locals should avoid the area. Widespread rain and storms in eastern and central Queensland have kept emergency crews on edge overnight. Burnett was one of the worst hit areas, receiving more than 80 mil of rain in an hour. And freed Bali 9 drug smuggler Scott Rush has faced a Queensland court over crimes committed nearly 20 years ago. The 39-year-old has pleaded guilty to fraud, theft and breaking and entering, all committed before his 2005 arrest in Bali. The courts convicted him but did not add further punishment. Yesterday's 184-run win in the final hour of Day 5 is being hailed as one of Australia's best Test victories. A man-of-the-match performance from Pat Cummins saw the home side take 7 Indian wickets in the final session to clinch a famous win in front of a record MCG crowd.
Never felt like it was, we were so far ahead of the game that it was, a win looked certain. Overall, one of those great wins.
And Sydney Thunder's back in the winner's circle at home thanks to David Warner's best Big Bash knock in 13 years.
Thanks to the Listener Newsroom for those headlines. Next up is my chat with political content creator Konrad Benjamin from last month, looking into the role of influencers in the 2025 election. This coming election will be the first in Australian history when millennials and Gen Zs will make up the majority of voters, replacing boomers as the most influential and important political constituency. And that means social media users, influencers and politicians trying to be influencers online will be more important in this election than any we've seen in our lifetimes. So what role could and should influencers be playing in our politics this election? Konrad Benjamin doesn't love the term influencer, but he's the host and creator behind Punters Politics, a YouTube channel that aims to help navigate the divisive world of Australian politics, and he's on a quest to make it simple for the everyday punter. Konrad, welcome to the briefing. Can influencers influence elections?
Well, I think from recent analysis from the USA, I suspect no. I think people think they can, but I think celebrity endorsements have been running for a while, and now we saw the DNC pick up a lot of influencers to endorse them, and it didn't seem to budge the needle. I think bigger factors are at play, but I think they're part of the playing field now, so it's here with us.
Well, maybe an election that was all about like cost of living was not going to be particularly influenced by Lady Gaga and Beyoncé, but not everyone who's an influencer is that level. Do you think that sort of regular people like yourself perhaps, can have more of an influence on politics?
I wonder if it's not necessarily like the opinion I have, but the media format that I bring. What I'm really trying to do is communicate complex, boring political policy and everything that the news media kind of dresses up in a very inaccessible academic sort of way. I'm trying to make that accessible to the everyday punter as much as possible. And I think that model that's, YouTube, Instagram, the Joe Rogans, that has introduced a new media format into the media landscape that I think has been embraced and people now look to as part of their news media diet. And I think that it's created a need for politicians and policymakers to engage with the policies on a level that people can understand and making it far more accessible for everybody. And also with politicians using those platforms to be authentic, because news media and these corporate entities kind of put everything at an arm's length and a distance behind producers, behind managers, behind teams of people. And I think punters are looking for authenticity. And I think the new mediums that have come out with YouTube and the podcast provides them with that. And I think it's now become an expectation for politicians to engage on this level in these new media formats.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is among the politicians who turns to TikTok and Instagram Reels sometimes to get his message across. Some politicians are better at it than others. What do you think when you see some of that content?
I think it depends how it's done. I'm seeing politicians do it really well and politicians not do it really well. If I was to give a scorecard from Albo, I think he's got his team of people with his nice little camera and his scripts, and he doesn't realise that the social media medium requires him to hold it himself, speak candidly, don't have a script, and be authentic. The platform rewards authenticity, and that's what people are looking for. That's what punters are looking for on TikTok to see. And so I would say independent politicians like Monique Ryan, David Pocock. I just saw Monique Ryan today explaining her position, why she was not going to back the social media ban for kids, gave her reasons, and it was herself with the camera giving some key points. Didn't seem like there was a team there. I'm sure she does have a team, but it seems like she's just being genuine. And I would say Albo and Dutto, it's not native to them, and you can see they don't understand it, and you can see the team there. I would say dip the camera quality, Albo, and hold it yourself and see if that helps.
Some US influencers have claimed that they've been approached by political parties for endorsements and offered money also. Do you worry that might be something that could happen in Australia?
Do I worry that a politician might approach me with a checkbook to get their endorsement? We'll see how large that number is. But, I mean, it's inevitable, right? Because that's essentially what influencers are. Marketing has now just infiltrated our friend groups and just everyday punters. And so now everyone's selling you something, no matter what it is. And so politics is another product to sell. So, of course, it's definitely going to happen for sure.
For someone who's not a content creator or an influencer, how do you make money doing this?
At the moment, it's punters on Patreon just donating. It's kind of like OnlyFans, but for people that like what I'm doing and just decide to give me money for that. That's probably the main source of income. YouTube pays okay. Instagram pays bugger all. TikTok, nothing. And that's probably it. I mean, brand deals as well. Like brands can approach me and go, hey, do you want to sponsor this? And then for me, I go, is it in line with what I'm trying to do? And then I make those decisions from there. But at the moment, it's mainly just punters who like that I'm getting the message out that I am, pointing out the corporate scams, the political scams that are pulled on everyday punters all the time. And they go, you need to keep doing that. And I think I like that model. I think that keeps me serving them. That keeps me going, okay, what is it? You guys want me to keep doing this? Great, I'll keep doing it as long as I can feed myself.
You're obviously someone who is in the political realm on the internet, but there's a lot of influencers who aren't. And there seems to be quite a bit of pressure for, particularly in the last US election that we just saw, for people to come out with their political views. Do you think that pressure is right for like a musician, for example?
Yeah, that has been the trend recently of people, especially like in politics, and especially maybe the political left has always said, what do you believe? What's your stance on this? And it's turned into some kind of purity code and some kind of purity test to say, well, you didn't denounce this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. And I think it's a normal extension of, you know, we've been bred to be just little capitalists that now use our purchasing power to support things we want. So now we've injected that into what we buy and then who we support and who we listen to. So then I guess some sectors of the electorate have demanded people they like to take a stance on something that aligns with them. But I wonder if there's been a massive backlash against that now, where people are kind of sick of it. And I wonder if that's what, I mean, this term woke can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but I wonder if that at its core is what the quote unquote woke backlash has been, of people signaling their beliefs about certain things and people maybe are requiring it less now. I'm not sure. I'm still watching it play out, but that seems to be a battle going on, whether you should or you shouldn't. I think Donald Trump's a great example of like, just do what you want to do and never back down. And that seems to be working for him. So maybe you don't have to pander to the crowd every single day to make sure your followers you're doing what they want. I guess that's audience capture, right? You're trying to make money by giving your audience what they want, but that'll change your opinions and what you do.
One of the outcomes of, I guess, the democratization of journalism in this way, that anyone can kind of put information out into the world in a way that 20 years ago they couldn't, is the kind of content that you make. But it's also disinformation, misinformation. People who are charismatic on the internet can convince people, even if they have no backing of it by evidence or facts. Is that something that you worry about?
My focus always tends to go to like the power centers and higher up the chain of these things. And I think the misinformation conversation is an important one, but it's always been with us. I'm reading the book now, Nexus by Noah Yuval Harari, and he goes through the history of misinformation and disinformation through the history from the witch trials. And you see the patterns are kind of the same. The conversation of this always, for most people, lands on free speech. And I think it needs to be landing on the corporations that use algorithms to show us certain things, because they are essentially broadcasters, but they're pretending not to be. They're pretending like it's out of their hands. They can't do anything about it. And I think if we focus on the actual power centers rather than letting this disinformation conversation end in censoring Uncle Daryl from his crazy views on Facebook, like let him have those views, but we should be discussing what distribution looks like, and we should be able to see what these algorithms are feeding to us. We should be able to see the back end, what they're prioritizing. We should have more control over these algorithms. So maybe for me, it's not about information, it's about control over what we see. If I would love an option to switch off an algorithm, to say only show me things from today, to make the algorithm serve me, so that if Facebook want me to use their algorithm, they'll need to make it appeal to me and not to the advertisers they sell me to.
What do you think this federal election is going to look like online?
I think it's going to look like the same old tricks, at least this next election, the same old tricks just on Facebook and Instagram. There might be a few, new dirty tactics played. I don't know if deep fakes are going to pop up more and more. Like that stuff's going to pop up more and more. I know they're getting more sophisticated with the disinformation stuff, with Facebook groups, farms of people making memes to try and convince people in that way. So I think warfare's shifting, but I think it's going to be harder for us to see, because we're not going to know if that meme came from a little think tank that the Liberal or Labor Party have funded to make me swayed in that way. My dad or sister or brother, they might see it in their echo chamber, but I might not. So I think we're going to see a splintering of messaging to target people specifically. And it's going to be hard for us to get a cohesive picture of what it actually looks like. I can only tell you what it would look like for me. I would say trust nothing that you see pushed by corporate. Anyone that sort of makes money with advertising, that's their customer. They're going to be pushing something that serves their advertisers or investors. I would just say when it comes to an election, keep it simple. Pick what you care about and go look at what the politicians vote for. Theyvoteforyou.org will tell you how they vote, and don't listen to what the politicians say or what their dumb ad says. just go check out what they vote. I'd say tune out, ignore any political advertising, and just look at how they vote and go with that.
Will you be endorsing any politicians?
No, I've made my platform very much policy focused. So my main messaging is I don't care who you vote for. Just make sure who you vote for is doing what you want them to do. And I'm just looking for good policy. So whichever party is going to put in the policy that I would want, this 20% hex debt sounds pretty bloody good to me. So that sounds like something I'd back. How about cancelling it altogether? That sounds like something I'd back. Whoever's going to bring me something that benefits me or benefits society, like up royalties on the gas that we give away for free every single year, I'll support them. But I'll check their voting record before I vote for them to make sure that they're not just lying to me.
Thanks so much for joining us on The Briefing.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
That was my chat with Konrad Benjamin from Punters Politics from November there. And that's it for this episode of The Briefing's Best of Summer series. Thanks for listening. Before you go, we'd love it if you could share this deep dive with someone you think might enjoy it. If you want to keep up with our other content, you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast and on TikTok and YouTube. Just search Listener Newsroom. We'll be back in your feed with some more headlines from the Listener Newsroom tomorrow and another Best of ep from 6 a.m. I'm Bension Siebert. Catch you next time.
Listener.